Hi, welcome landlords. This is Renee here. This video I want to talk about mindset stuff, but before we get started, I want to quickly explain who I am and what I'm doing here. So, I've been a landlord for 12 years. The first 2 years I used a property manager, and the past 10 years after that, I've been doing everything on my own. It's been a learning curve to say the least, but over the years it evolved into something quite nice, and I'd like to share that with you. And I started two landlord communities. I hope I get to add value to you guys, and we can build something special, private landlord community, and everybody sharing ideas and just all around improving and getting better. So the four Delta intro is the first community. This right here, it's the free one. It's for solopreneur landlords with little to no money to invest back in their business. My mission still to is the same as to help landlords cash flow forever. Over here on the 4 Delta Landlord Mastermind, this is still for solopreneur landlords, but they have extra money to reinvest back into the business. Mission, I'm gonna try my best to help all landlords cash flow forever. At least that's my motto here, and that's what I'm doing. The first example I want to give, like I'm going to talk about lots of stuff between both the communities, but I'm going to cater it differently within the two different communities. So I just put this here as an example to try to, explain how my approach will be different. With, for example, a website, I will be showing you guys how to make a website the most cost-effective, cheapest way, while still building in some systems like using FAQs and leveraging that to your advantage, but it'll be limited. Um, uh, I'll make that video soon. So basically what I'll do is I'll give you all the code, my pictures, my copy. I'll show you how to buy a domain. It's not expensive. To host it, if you're going to use photos, you're going to need a way to display the photos with a link, because it's essentially going to be a static app, like a static website. And at the bottom, there'll be some links that will divert to a Google document that you can manually and live, update on the fly. But the website itself will stay static. And if you're not a part of the community yet, please go to school.com/4delta-intro and join. It's free. But the website that I currently use is on a paid hosting platform. If you guys are in this community and you use the same platform, I'll be able to share my exact website with you guys. You can port it into your account. I'll also walk you through how to embed your own forms. I can give you the forms, but the forms are electronic forms and stuff you need to be able to purchase these tools. Then I'll show you, and I'll show you how to do everything, and then embed them into your website. Show you how to collect payments if you want to collect application fees on your website, and so on and so forth. Also, the website's very easy for you to edit. Go in there, log in, and just click around, and I'll walk you through all this stuff. If you're interested in joining this, please go to foreverlandlord.com. If you are in school and you're part of both of the communities, this is what it'll look like. You can switch between the two communities just by clicking the drop down and selecting. All right, enough with that. Now let's get into the first lesson that I kind of want to start off with. I think it's important to start with the end in mind. Like, why are we doing this? And let's try not to forget what's most important along the way. So, all right. My side bias, that's just like your interior narrative in your brain, how you think, which, affects your behavior and then your results. I got some examples here to try to, walk it through and kind of see if this expresses what's in my mind, and hopefully it'll help you guys. So if you're a landlord and you're just starting out, you may have what I just made this up, a penny pincher's mindset, right? Then your behavior, pair that with your behavior. I want to be a landlord because I want to save money. Now your results are going to be skewed towards saving money. And in the beginning, that's fine, but I'm just showing how your my side bias paired with behavior gives you the result of those. To the contrary, let's say you are somebody that inherited a rental property and it's fully paid off. So you're not necessarily concerned with saving money, but you want to save time. So let's say you have a busy bee mindset, you're a busy professional. Your behavior is probably like, hey, I want to hire a property manager because I want to reduce my responsibility. I want to save time. So your results will be skewed towards saving time, weighted towards saving time, right? But for me, the forever landlord mindset kind of that I have now, and ideally the 4 Delta, everything I get to teach in the landlord communities is going to give us the result of getting freedom. So it's more balanced, and I'll get into that later, but it's weighted towards freedom, not saving money and not trying to just be completely detached and save time. So I guess this is what this picture is here. Like, what do you really want? Real freedom, liberty. And the definition of real freedom, if you look it up, is positive freedom and negative freedom. Essentially, you have to be free to do something. Nobody's stopping you to do it. And then also you have to be physically able or have the resources to do something. And there's 2 examples they give. One was somebody's free to swim across the English Channel, but not really free because they can't do it. They haven't trained, they're not conditioned, they just are not a good swimmer, right? There's another example they give, which is somebody's free to vacation to Miami, but not really free because they can't afford it, right? So if you're a landlord and you're so concerned with saving money and you're the one working in your business and you're doing everything, you're really not free because your business is dependent on you alone. So you can't leave. You got to be always readily available. And that's kind of the idea here, like real freedom, be able to walk away, everything's fine, and come back and it's okay. Also, I'll try to give an example with somebody that outsources it to, let's say, a property manager. Let's say they want to leave and they're able to just go and do their own stuff, and the property manager contacts them, and they're still involved in their business. But if anything happens to that property manager, let's say they have medical conditions and something happens to them in their health and they can't do the job anymore, or they get bought out, or let's say they just decide to retire. You're not really free with that situation because it's all dependent on that property manager. And that's just a basic example here. So when you're thinking of real freedom, you're thinking like, how do I get what I want out of this? And it's balance where it's not dependent on me alone and it's not dependent on a property manager alone. So we'll get into that later, and that's where my strategy is and my goal and like what I'm trying to do here. All right, so ideas. Well, I got some notes here. Let's see where I was going with this. You can't give away your responsibility, a PM conflict of interest. So yeah, that relates. So if you hire a property manager, you're still legally liable for what goes on in your property. Also, they are incentivized differently than what the landlord wants. So they may enjoy and prefer tenant turnover because they get the first month's rent. So that's their my side bias as a property manager. Hey, I want them to be there to be tenant turnover. Or they actually may like that there's repairs and they want to suggest to replace everything because they have their own contractors and they get their price and they mark it up and charge you. To the contrary, what a landlord would want is tenants to stay long-term without turnover, have an ownership mentality, and be willing to handle small repairs and stuff like that. And it's just a conflict of interest, what I'm just trying to highlight here. And also, I was thinking that the property manager, I was going to say something else along those lines. What was it? Property manager. I don't know. I got so much stuff going in my mind. I never give any kind of video or demonstration like this, so I'm trying to pack it in as much as I can and make it efficient for you guys. So I'm learning as I go. Bear with me. You can't save your way to financial prosperity. I guess that's geared towards like the landlords that just their default is like whatever I got to do to save money. At some point, you really need to consider, reinvesting back into the business systems and stuff like that. You don't want deferred maintenance and over time it just collapsing. That's what I was going to say. If you hire a property manager and everything's reliant on them, let's say they make some mistakes or something and a tenant destroys everything and your heart is not in it, you may want to just I don't want nothing to do with this. I want to sell everything and fix it up and get out from here, because it's not a balanced type of way to handle your business, because you're detached, and when problems come up and it's like overwhelming, you don't want to deal with this, you don't really feel comfortable with it, so you're like, what, just get rid of it. And the whole idea here is to make it super simple, understand everything, not be worried about little problems, and then when they do come up, fix them, and just know that you can stabilize all your rental properties and operations and make it super simple and sustainable. Something you could do for forever, really easy, no stress, and that's the goal here, right? So you can't give away your financial, or you can't save your way to financial prosperity. That I cover those two, whatever. So do before outsourcing testing and stuff. So that goes back to kind of like balance. And I think the next slide talks a little bit more about the long-term perspective, big picture paradigm shift. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to do here with this mindset stuff is, I guess it's like brainstorming, ideas, thought processing and stuff, and trying to figure out what we're actually doing here and before we get to work. Yeah, paradigm shift stuff. So like we got the rabbit and the turtle. I think that was supposed to remind me of, staying the course, being determined, not giving up, getting distracted, and going to the next shiny object here. Oh, short-term rentals. Ooh, I want to get exotic, expensive, properties that are, really in remote locations, so I can do Airbnb. I don't know, or I want to be multifamily. No, I want to go single family, or vice versa. Stay committed, and that goes back to the paradigm shift, long-term perspective, forever difference here, and life, liberty, what matters, time's running out. You know what I mean. I'm just trying to really drill down, like just send it home that like it's important to have the right mindset, because if you don't, your heart's not in it and you're not going to be able to make it long term. So the reason why I call my communities Fort Delta is just something I dreamed up. The 4 stands for ever, and the uppercase delta symbol is I think it's used in finance, science, and in math, I think, to measure difference, like a change in between two things. So that's ultimately the forever difference, is that paradigm shift, your mindset. Like if you think about it, the way that you're going to approach your business and how you're going to handle, every aspect of your business and approach problem solving and everything, if you have a forever difference mindset and you're thinking really long term, you're going to fix it the right way the first time, and you're not going to be looking for shortcuts. Like, for example, let's say you just have a rental property and you know you're not going to have it very long, and you just need a lease. Like, how do I get a lease? And I want to save money. So you go online, you just get the first free lease possible. You get a tenant for 1-2 years or whatever. And then at some point you sell the property and you don't want nothing to do with it. Obviously, you're going to be just like, get it done. What's the task at hand? Knock it out and just move along. But if you're like, hey, I'm going to be doing this a long time, let me get a lease. Let me get the best lease. How do I optimize this lease? How do I make build in systems into this lease? How do I make it better for the tenant and myself long term? How do I make this so easy that, like, if I wanted to hand off the business to my kids, they can keep it and maintain it, no problem, So that's that paradigm shift that you have with your mindset. Also, I like the triangle. It's the strongest shape. It's only got 3 sides, and I think that's how I guess I dreamed it all up. and I got this 7 Habits of Highly Effective People because something I recall from that book was starting with the end in mind and the paradigm shift. And he gave a simple example on a subway, if I can remember correctly, where there was these kids that were acting a fool, and they were on a subway, and the more the guy sat there on the subway and watched the kids, the more agitated he got inside. He saw that the kids were aggravating other people on the subway, in the bus or area. Like, I don't know if it was a bus or a subway or train area. I don't know. Whatever. The kids were just acting a fool, and he's looking at the father just sitting there. And at some point, he just got so upset that he had said something to the father and said, "Hey, yo, what's going on here? Don't you see your kids? They're aggravating everybody. Can you do something?" The father looked up detached, kind of like, "Hey, oh yeah, I guess they are acting a fool. I'm sorry. We just came from the hospital. They lost their mother, and I guess we all don't know what we're doing with ourselves anymore, or how we're going to go about our life." And now all of a sudden, the guy that was a few seconds before really pissed at these kids and thought this guy was a jerk, all of a sudden he's very remorseful because his paradigm shift, and he realized, okay, what matters in life? These kids are going to go their whole life without their mom. This guy, how's he going to manage this? He's probably got a lot of stress, you know. All of a sudden, that paradigm shift, and I was like, wow, that's powerful, you know. So I guess that's where I'm going with all this. um, Meaning and purpose. Yeah, so we got some more. So the castle, this is the icon that I like using because it helps me think of the rental properties as something permanent and will last forever. And in the Bible, it says, there's a verse that says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And that's like a big, meaningful purpose, mission to get behind. And I respect that. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here in my own life. And with Benjamin Franklin, I listened to his autobiography, and I respect that man because he was also somebody that lived with purpose and served something bigger than himself, and, you know, the founding fathers in America and all that good stuff. So if you haven't read it, I would recommend it because it's inspirational. And I guess there's a quote here I got. I hope, therefore, that some of my descendants may follow the example and reap the benefits. Oh, and I know he invested in real estate too, and he was wanting freedom, financial freedom, so he can invent more stuff. And like, I think he didn't even really get financially free until later on in life. And that's a good point because once he got financially free later on in life, I think his rental properties or whatever the heck was going on, then he was able to do so much good for society and invent a bunch of stuff. So imagine what we could do once we establish our, you know, the basics. We get all the bills covered with our cash flow. What else could you do? I guess that's what I'm doing here with trying to teach this course and stuff, you know? Oh yeah, I remember this Elon Musk and Jay Leno. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I watched a short clip. I think it's a show on MSNBC or something like that. Jay Leno is touring the facility, and they're looking at these rocket boosters that are state of the art, advanced beyond anything NASA's ever done, like by leaps and bounds. It's like super state of the art. And Jay Leno's like, hey, you obviously got this stuff patent, right? And he's like, what? No. He's like, patents are for the weak. They're used as a blocking mechanism like landmines and warfare. What they do is they prevent advancement, and they try to stop people from following your lead. And I was like, whoa, I was like, that's amazing. And that also plays into this mindset shift, paradigm shift that I'm trying to send home, if it makes any sense to you guys, was he's trying to send people to Mars, right? He doesn't know exactly how to do that. He's just trying to make it happen, doing everything he can, you know, to progress the cause, and he's serving something bigger than himself, and he's inventing and contributing to society as a whole because he's you know, I don't know, big purpose. Meaning, I hope that this kind of makes sense what I'm trying to say here, and that is ultimately kind of what I'm trying to say as a landlord. Like, is your heart in this for the long haul? Are you trying to do something meaningful with your rental properties, or are you just going to sell out early and exit and just give up on all the future cash flow you could have. And maybe one day, I mean, you could use that cash flow and be like Benjamin Franklin, invent other stuff, start another business, and your free time can contribute to society, your friends, your family, whatever. I don't know. How will you build your future? Okay, so this is a simple diagram, like a scientific feedback loop, I think it is, where there's, oh no, it's this way. So there's an input into a process in the environment, the sun, rain, the earth. Then there's an output. And the feedback that you understand what took place, and now you can iterate. Now you can change the input, see how the process alters with the different inputs, and see the new output. And if you approach your rental business like this, when a problem comes up, like let's say the tenant is giving you the input, you have your processes, how you handle business, and then you get an output you don't like. You say, okay, I'm gonna take that feedback. How do I change it next time this happens again? And let's say I get a different tenant, they give me the same input, but now I have a different process. It gives a better output. Oh, okay, that's good. And you keep just like iterating your business, trying to make it more and more efficient till one day it runs itself. Because I got this picture down here where it's like a futuristic house and a flying car and an ATM and a robot. I believe in the future, if we can, as landlords, hold on to our properties long enough, one day it will be super simple to be a landlord. I feel like the house would be like some automated technological advancement, I don't know, where people can come up, put their thumb on the door, or I don't know, scan their phone, and then the door unlocks, lets them in, and they live there as long as they need to. If something breaks, they talk to the house, hey Alexa, or hey Google, fix this. And then when they want to leave, they just walk out and they put their thumb or check out with their phone or something. And all we got to do is just kind of like maintain possession is the goal. At that point, hand it down. If you don't have kids, maybe give it to a charity. If you have enough cash flow to live your life, like what, there's no need to sell the property, I think, in my opinion. But that's just me. And like it's kind of like Elon Musk getting to Mars. Like I don't know how I'm going to do this. It's just that's my goal is like how do I make these rentals so efficient they pretty much run themselves, you know? It's a work in progress to say the least, but that's my goal. And that's kind of how I approach my business. And I hope that together working with each other, we can figure this out and we can make our rental businesses like self-sufficient. What do I got? Okay, I think that's pretty much the end of this first video. I have some action items because there's something called the forgetting curve that people forget 75% of any lesson or anything that they just finished, right? So you're only going to retain maybe 25% of this. So my goal is to, give you some actions to why it's fresh to try to retain it and see if this works. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm kind of figuring this out as I go, but it seems logically to me, right? So take notes. I use Evernote, and I just made an example here of like how it would be good to take a note so you don't forget. Like maybe just have the two photos of my different landlord communities, because ideally I would like for you guys to get a bunch of cash flow and then maybe start out with the Ford Delta intro and graduate into the Ford Delta and just keep optimizing the business till one day it just runs itself. Take a note here, set some build FAQs website. Okay, this is probably the next lesson or video that I'm going to try and teach. Anyways, all right. So use some kind of note-taking app, and anything that resonated with you, definitely jot it down and maybe set some tasks to follow up with some things. What do you want? Yeah, definitely get clear on what you want. Like, do you want, 3 rental properties? Do you want 10? Do the math and use numbers. So like, here's a quick little example. If you had 5 fully paid off rental properties and they each brought in $1,500, that times 5 times 1,500 is $7,500 per month, right? And then if you times that by 12, you get $90K. So just consider that as a simple, thought experiment. Just 5 fully paid off rental properties, which is doable. You can almost have $100K in income. And just so you know, this is a hedge against inflation. So you can increase the rent and make sure you sustain a powerful enough dollar to survive off of it. But then on the other hand, if you have 10 rental properties, but you're only cash flowing a little bit per property, per door, let's say $200, you times that 10 times 200, you're only making $2,000 a month. Then if you times that by 12, $24,000 a year. And think of the complexity difference between these two. As individual landlords, we can only handle so much. So at some point, we're going to reach a capacity overload, you know? So I like the idea of simple, you know, less complex and stuff like that. And if you only have one rental property, good. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of us hear stories of how many people, oh, I got this many units and stuff. Yeah, it sounds cool that they have lots of rentals, but what kind of complexity mess do they have, and how much of the rental income do they actually get at the end of the day? You know what I mean? So we all got different paths and journeys along the way, and you know, nobody's wrong. It's all good. One last thing that I just thought of is, let me shrink this. Thinking of rental properties as a permanent type of castle investment. I was poking around online, and I went to the oldest city in Florida, St. Augustine, and I just found a house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1780 square foot, about $500,000 right now. And I also looked them up on the public record, but this house is almost 100 years old, right? And it's like a modern day castle, right? And I've built one rental property before, so I know the process of permitting and how all that goes, but I just want to point out something. So I looked up this lot online on the property appraiser website. It's all public record. It's a corner lot. There's actually a 2-car detached garage over here. And like, just so you know, like, if this thing was fully paid off, you could get a construction loan, gut it, redo, repipe, rewire everything. And just because it's old doesn't mean that it's just going to disappear and wither away. No, you can rehab, revamp this whole product. You could maybe turn it into a duplex, but you got to check the zoning. It gets a little complicated. Like, for example, I was thinking maybe the house is kind of small. If I was going to, you know, keep it long term, maybe I was going to, you know, gut everything. Maybe I would want to expand the footprint a little bit. When you do that, it gets complicated a little bit more, because you're able to build in this footprint without any problems. But if you're going to expand it, then you got to go get with the zoning laws, and you know, maybe you have to file a variance. Like, I know on this side is the property line, and this bedroom is like right up on the property line. And most counties want you at least, like, it's called a 5-foot setback. It's like a setback. They don't want you building right up to the line. So I probably couldn't extend this wall out in here to make the kitchen and the living room and all this bigger. But what you could do is maybe you could go this way. And if it's zoned for auxiliary dwellings, you could maybe build like an in-law suite or a apartment, maybe in some of the room over here. I don't know. But you have options. The whole idea here is, this is a 100-year-old house. Whoever had it first, I think they had it for like 60 years. And it looks like they had an enhanced life estate. And they do that so there's a seamless transition of ownership when the first person passes away. And then in like the 2000s, it was sold for like the first time, and then sold a couple times like that. And now that somebody's trying to sell it for $500,000. But the idea here is, like, if you look at this as like a permanent investment, a castle, and don't worry that like one day you might have to, you know, gut the whole thing and start over. It's doable if the thing's paid off, you know. Just take out a new loan, and then you keep getting the rent and just pay that thing off again and just keep going. I don't know. I hope that helps with you guys. That's it for now. Make some notes, do some math, set some goals, and that's it. Thank you so much.